discussing how the let me take another sheet. So let's say there are lemons and oranges. And we can classify based on diameter, and then we can classify this further down, and we can classify them on based on color. So you will see that after some time lemons will be separated if the problem is correct, and oranges will come in this basket. Now this is only two levels. In real life, this can contain multiple levels. So it looks like a tree. There is one node cluster here, and there are multiple levels. So this is discussing how and I'll share my discussing how the you can go through that. They are pretty easy to understand. I'm running out of time, so this is called as classification and regression tree. Now what it does is that it actually works on a partitioning algorithm. It tries to minimize the impurity. Okay, the formula I'm not going into details, but it's available on my slides if you want to consult. And I'll send it to. And she may send it to you. So classification and regression trees can comprise of multiple levels, and managers love it because then you are able to say that if a person, let's take a very simple example, is of a certain age, let's say 26 years of age, living in Mumbai, you can say that he's likely to be a defaulter. If we are modeling the loan defaulting or credit modeling sort of a thing, if we are doing, okay. So, and then this is classification tree. But we can also change the initial point in the algorithm. If we do that, then we can draw a lot of trees. And what are a lot of trees called? Is called as random forest. So you would have heard of random forest as a method. It's an important method of classification. And this is called as the classifying techniques, in which you grow a lot of trees and you average your results out for prediction. Okay? Why do we have to grow a lot of trees? Because in machine learning, there is a concept of training and testing. We train our model. So when we got the data, we divide the data into two sets. There is a training data and there is testing data. So we train the model, we estimate the regression equation on one sort of a training data, and we apply it for testing data. Sometimes there is also called as holdout sample. Because let's say I train the data on, let's say, Mumbai customers. Will the same model hold for Gurgaon customers? Perhaps yes, perhaps not. We don't know. So that's why, sometimes we have to train on multiple samples, multiple partitions. You can imagine this like a running multiple regression equations, hundreds and thousands, and machine does it automatically. Okay? And this is called as the, so we always divide the data into training sample and then the testing data. Okay. All right. So I think, so that is called as the cluster, this thing. Let me go back to my presentation. So, and then there are time series methods, and time series methods are quite simple to understand because they are based on the series itself. So for example, suppose you want to forecast Virat Kohli's score. The simplest time series model will be that you model Virat Kohli's score as, let's say, Virat Kohli's score of just hold on. That in next match, the score will be in a match which is previous. This is a very nice model, but you can say he's going to score in next match whatever he scored last time. Somebody might complicate that. Somebody might say, why only one match? Let's make it an average of two. Let's take his two previous this thing. Okay. Somebody might say, why only two? Let's make it an average of 3 matches. Now this methodology is called as a moving average, if you have noticed. But somebody might say that recent forms counts more. So let's attach weightages. Maybe let's call them alpha here, some weightage beta and some weightage gamma. And you can say that alpha is going to be greater than beta and greater than gamma. Now this very simple thing, means that his recent scores will be counted more in terms of, and of course you could have taken the average, right? So you get the idea. Now these models are called as auto-regressive, auto-regression. Sorry, I'll just type it here. Auto-regression model. So when I said that Virat Kohli's score this match will be the same as previous one, that is called as the auto-regressive model of order 1, because we were taking it last model. So that's a very simple time series model. There are, exponential smoothing, Winter-Holtz method, which actually play around this weightage thing. Then there is ARIMA model, which is called as auto-regressive moving average. Auto-regressive you already know, so there is no rocket science in this. So you see, analytics is actually not that difficult once you start getting hang of it. And this is what the time this thing is. And then there are, one thing which I wanted to emphasize before I conclude is that the exact method that you will apply is actually going to depend upon what is your industry context or your domain context. That is most important. And one of the things sometimes that is, distinguishing about analytics today is there are a whole lot of methodologies. An important aspect of, and this is the last aspect, and I'll conclude with this, don't think that analytics is just limited to structured data of regression and all. What makes us human is basically what is called as cognition. So there is a lot of analytics these days which are in the areas of vision, speech, language, and knowledge. Particularly for IoT, these days Alexa and all these, they learn from the model itself. So you are providing the training data for them, and based on that data, the algorithms are becoming intelligent. So there are, it is serviced through cloud. It's like plug and play. You put the data in, the machine will give you, what does the image comprise of, whether looking at your face, you are happy or unhappy, and stuff like that. So there is some example like these, and you can go to Amazon or Microsoft Azure Cloud. So for example, these days compute can predict, and these algorithms are openly available. They are available in open source. So if you have image, you can compare. So showing a photo to a computer, it will be able to forecast whether you are female, whether your eyes are open, whether you are happy, sad, anxious. It can forecast all of that. If you show another photo, it will be able to tell you what is there in the photo. Is it a person? Is it a rock? Is it a crest? This is called as object identification. And there are neural networks, ANN, if you have heard of, methodology which go on to such determination. In football, you can identify which player was actually in which part of the field and when. And through this, you can assess whether the player actually played well in that match or not. There is text analytics, which based on the usage of a certain word, it can identify whether the content is safe for children to view it. The species can be identified. So when you mix all these techniques together, you get the wonderful idea around cognition. And this is where the analytics is moving towards. And it's actually very exhilarating. I think we are fortunate in our generation to experience such changes. As there is a quote which is said that which is am I on Excel or am I on PowerPoint?
You're on PowerPoint, sir.
Yes. So, which is said that may we all live in interesting times. So, ladies and gentlemen, these are very interesting times. With that, I conclude. Unless you have questions in chat, I'm also available on email. You can collect my email ID and feel free to write to me if you have questions around anything. Or this was a very basic session. We are all learning to grapple with the problem of online classes, which is, by the way, not an easy thing. So pardon, some of the interruptions and disruptions in the delivery and my horrible writing on the screen as well. So thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Mudit. It was such a fantastic lecture, and it gives an overview and motivation to work on the analytics area, because usually people feels that, oh, data and analytics is not my cup of tea. But you have shown us that it is not so difficult. We need to understand the fundamental, and then you are just through. But one thing is very much clear, that nothing is possible in the research in future without data and analytics, especially in electricity sector. We are so used to of the handling the data in terms of whenever we are doing anything about forecasting or load dispatch. So we are using data, but only thing is we have to do it in a different way when we are moving towards new technology. So thank you very much, and it's a very, very informative session. And if any participant would like to answer a question, anything from Dr. Mudit, they
There was
can.
one topic which I was wanting to cover, which was on the type 1, type 2 error. Yeah.
Okay.
Sir, ma'am, I would like to take a question then. I would like
Yes,
to ask
yes.
a question.
Yeah, please.
So, when I was working on this renewable energy integration, I used probability density function for this wind speed forecasting and solar irradiance forecasting. So, do you think that these ARMA and ARIMA models or the Markov probability matrix, they are a better method in comparison with the PDFs that we have been using?
Possible. So if you have time series data elements, right, where the data is dynamic, right, then specifying a pre-distribution may not give you good results. My suggestion also will be that you try neural networks for this. Because
Okay.
neural networks do not assume anything about the distribution of the data. They actually take the data, detect the patterns. So it's like a black box, but I think that would give you the best results when the underlying distribution is actually not apparent. So the idea in data sciences is that we try multiple techniques and we try to then forecast and see how do the results compare. My sense is that if you use artificial ANN, that will give you better results in this particular scenario.
So, even for load forecasting as well, we should be going for artificial neural networks.
Yes, yes.
Yes, yes.
The only problem with ANN is that it doesn't give you. It's like a black box. It doesn't give you, a neat relationship between Y and X that we are used to. Because, it will just throw you the result. But my sense is that it will still give you a better result. And these are the artificial neural network can be built dynamically also. Because remember that the process of scoring is not very dynamic and the data changes all the time. So artificial neural is something that can be embedded on the platform itself, and that should give you a better result. I think you should try that.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Mudit. So many feedback from the chat box. They are saying that.
Ma'am, I have one question. Can I ask one question?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Mudit sir. Very nice presentation. Thank you so much, sir. Sir, my name is Harish. I work on building energy efficiency. Now, in this scenario of pandemic, most of us are working from home. So the time has come that we will start work for a smart home scenario, as the time has come now. And a large amount of data has to be recorded, monitored, and analyzed when I'm talking about the smart metering infrastructure.
Yeah.
Sir, I want to know your views about the software package that you believe is the best to be used when you have a very less sampled data. Will you recommend Python or would you recommend Excel?
It's a sparse data, you are saying?
Yes.
And dynamic and real time also?
No, it's not a sparse data, sir. It's an unsparse data.
No.
And the dynamic requirement.
Is it dynamic or real time?
Sir, it's a real-time data, but in order to work on neural networks, we would make it dynamic.
Yeah. So these days, one of the important things, and I'm sorry I didn't emphasize this point in my lecture.
No problem, sir.
The days of standalone analytics and data warehousing is gone.
Okay.
Everything these days, if you really want to make it time relevant for next decade to come, you have to do it on cloud. Okay. Now in cloud, there are a variety of platforms available, but there are 3 platforms which are seeming to, grow very fast. One is obviously the Amazon or AWS platform. which provides you end-to-end services around data warehousing, around storing, querying, as well as all sorts of modeling. So there are APIs, if you have heard of these.
Yes.
APIs are like web services. It's like plug and play. It's like buying a CD and playing, right? You just provide the input, the output will come. Okay? So you can either do it on Amazon Web Services, or you can do it on Microsoft.
Sir, I have lost your audio, sir. Mudit sir, I have lost your audio. I think you are on mute, sir.
Am I on mute?
You are audible, sir.
Unmuted, sir. So can you please repeat the last 10 to 15 seconds?
Yeah, so what I was saying was you have to implement this on a cloud. Okay, everything these days is done on cloud, by the way. The days of a standalone thing is gone. So Microsoft Azure actually is a very good platform. It's also the world leader. And you can also examine Amazon Web Services and the Amazon Cloud to do that modeling.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Hello? I don't know whether I was on mute. Are you guys able to hear me?
Yes, sir, we are able to hear you clearly.
So I was saying that you can implement this through cloud, by the way.
Any other questions? Okay, so I think, ma'am.
I don't think there
You're
are.
not audible, ma'am.
Hello?
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Mudit, once again for such a nice and informative and interesting
Can I
lecture.
just make one last remark?
Yes, why not?
Yeah, so I just wanted to, so I have been in this field for quite a number of years, and what I have felt is that this area should not be feared of. Actually, as a matter of fact, for a lot of reasons, India can lead the world in this area. It's becoming easier for application, and I think this is one area in which we can beat China if we really want to. But a lot of academicians need to respond. And it's also very easy to learn because learning material and technology and platforms are actually available. The more we will learn, it's an area which is also becoming very, very easy to apply also if you look at cloud. I would just like you to encourage to explore these fabulous information which is available on web and YouTube and other things, and you will see that a lot of things can be learned pretty fast.
Yeah, thank you. I have also, yes. And I have also come to know that in ICER, they have started one BTech program in data analytics.
Yeah,
engineering.
So a lot of things might be free also. So I would encourage that you guys can go to MIT OpenCourseware, where a lot of beautiful material is available. There are a lot of YouTube videos which are also freely available. And if you have the discipline, this is one area which can really produce a lot of exciting stuff for you. Of course, the foundational thought process has to be right. So basic grounding in stats, and that's the only thing which is required. And I think it can be mastered pretty quickly.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So I leave the meeting now.
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks.
Yes, yeah. Can I just brief about tomorrow's schedule?
Yes.
To all the participants?
Yes.
Yeah. So tomorrow we again start at 9:30 and we'll end up at the same time, 3:30. The first session would be taken by Dr. Sarika Khushlani Solanki from University of West Virginia. So please join us at 9:30. Besides, many of you have been mailing me regarding attendance part, and as I've mentioned earlier as well, the attendance would be automatically generated through Cisco WebEx only, and based upon your login time, they come to relate with how much, for how long interval you were here. So it would be automatically generated. We cannot take any separate attendance session. So that is it for today, and tomorrow's link will be shared to you by late evenings. You already have the schedule. So thank you very much for today. We'll meet tomorrow then.
Yeah.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. See you tomorrow. Bye. Bye.
Bye.